Good morning, everybody. This is going to be like a live stream, meaning a quick update. It's 12:30 in the morning, and I've been up for 2 hours. And you say, how could you be up for 2 hours and it's only 12:30 in the morning? Because sometimes I used to wake up at 10:30, lay down at, I'd sleep for 1 hour sometimes at the firehouse. 1 hour. And then get up at 10:30 or 11, at night, and that was my time to get up. Now, so that happened for many years, that happened for a while. So I was praying and had the music on. And I said, well, I guess that's it. We'll be up. I'm going to get ready in a little while because I'm going to go and do a meeting with my daughter. And I'll upload this, so this will be live stream. And I had some time, live stream meaning I upload it right after I make it. So I'll start early today. I guess I'll do a few comments. Most of you realize that I didn't mention anything about the police shooting. There was another one. Now the video went viral and all. I don't know the whole. I saw what everybody else saw. What they have to. We just put a bunch of new rookies, new cops in Corpus Christi. New academy. You rookies, firemen do the same thing. You have rookie school and academy, and then you have new guys come on the department. I think it would be helpful if, in this shooting yesterday of the black man, another one, it seems as if they maybe took the gun. The man might have had a gun on him, which, look, that is, I'm not defending this shooting at all of this black man. And he seemed to have permission to be in front of the store. He was selling compact discs, CDs. There was a complaint. The cops had him on the ground, but if you watch the video, surely looks like another unjustified killing. But the cops it looks like they took the gun out of his pocket. That he had a gun on him and it was in his pocket. And then they took it out. And, of course, that might mean they're trying to cover it up and say, see, they might be saying, see, he had the gun. In many of these shootings, what we see is the officers don't have the mentality to recognize. You don't cover up. I think in this case, again, I've heard various things yesterday on the news. They're saying their body cameras malfunctioned and things of that nature. I believe they're saying it in this case. We had in Chicago, the cops were destroying their car cams or taking them out of the vehicles, but if they were involved in altercation. So all of that, and when they do that, when the cops destroy their own body cameras, I don't know if they did it in this case, but they've done it in others. Even when all of that is found out, that they destroyed evidence, planted evidence, in other cases, even when all of that is found out, those guys are on the job in the morning, ready to go again. There is absolutely no discipline of the criminal behavior of officers. When I went a couple of years ago to internal affairs here in Corpus Christi about something, a dumping ticket I had. I mentioned this a lot. I remember, because I was upset, but I said, and you got some cop, and that guy was like, what did he do now? Type thing. And it let me know they understand that cops are out there committing crimes. They know it. They know it. I have the picture of Holtzclaw up here. Holtzclaw was that cop that was raping women on a regular basis. And black women, minorities. And saying, look, if you don't let me sexually assault you, dear, the cop would say, then you're going to jail. Now, he had a history of that because he finally raped a 50-year-old black Bible study teacher. and the woman feared for her life, reported it. This cop's name is Holtzclaw, in prison now. And when she was in the hospital because she got raped by the cop, or he made her give him oral sex. I remember the lady's testimony was when a female officer of that department went in to interview this 50-year-old black Bible study teacher who had to give a blowjob to an officer. The victim said, "You'll never believe this." And the woman cop said, "Oh no, we know. He's been doing this for a while." What other job can you have that you've been committing felonies for a while with the full acknowledgement of your local police department? Except if you're one of the employees of that police department. What other job can you have, McDonald's worker, whatever, that you can commit felonies on a regular basis with the full acknowledgement of the local police department and continue to do it? The only ones that could do that are officers of that department. Are you understanding anything? Because that's not a one-time thing. When I went to this internal affairs, 4 years ago now, they knew that cops here were committing crimes. Because they said, what did he do now? And I wasn't even there to report that officer. So now today in Corpus Christi, you have a beautiful young girl that's been missing, I guess, for 2 weeks. Castellanos, it's in the news. She was from San Antonio, Texas, moved here and held 2 jobs. I've seen her picture. She was 26. She's 26. Her mother's worried. Now it looks like something happened. She's missing now for a few weeks. And the media, now the news reporters went to the police to try to find out, is anything going on? And the police are not telling that. They're saying she was a victim of a violent crime recently, in a few weeks before she went missing. Maybe the boyfriend threatened her, assaulted her. Looks like they're possibly looking at the boyfriend because this girl is now missing. And the Kohler Times, our local paper, has been doing a big thing on domestic abuse, and they're showing that the Corpus Christi PD, they were closed on the weekend for the domestic violence, and then a woman was just murdered who went to them for help, and they were closed. So they're doing an expose. So who knows what happened to this girl? But I prayed for her yesterday, and I heard too. I think the video that this is going to go up with the other video, and I think it cut short at the end because I had reviewed it to write the notes. I think I got most everything in. I was talking about how when they came to get Jesus in the garden, at first it seems as if the guards, soldiers, were going to take Jesus and all of the disciples. It seems as if that, because Jesus said, "Let these go." Because Judas betrayed Jesus with a kiss, identified him, and then they fell backwards. They fell down. What? The Word of God. That was one of the occasions where Jesus said to them, "You're not following the script. You're here, Jesus is saying, you're here to get me." And it's written in the prophets that this is going to take place. But it's also written in the prophets that your chief shepherd is going to be smitten and the flock's going to be scattered. Meaning, that was a prophecy, I think, Zechariah. Meaning, you're here to get me, you Roman soldiers, but these are supposed to go. And it seems like maybe they weren't going to initially follow that. And so, they fell down. The power of God knocked them down. And then they got up. And Jesus said, "Okay, now you're here to get me, and these guys are going to go. Okay, we'll do what you say now." you can take me like the story of Samson when his brothers were going to tie him up. It was only willingly, because they said if he goes for it. And so I think that part got cut out. And I was listening. I had a few notes, things I didn't mention on the video. I could look at them now, but let me say something. Yesterday, Great Britain, UK, they came out with their final report after many years on the war in Iraq, because they were doing a very long, I think it was an 8-year investigation on whether or not Tony Blair, who was the leader of Great Britain at the time of our war in Iraq, and our president was George Bush. They did an 8-year, I think, investigation to see whether Tony Blair himself, whether they got them into the war, Britain into the war unjustly. And the report came out. They did a lot better than the United States did on this. And the report said, basically, that war was unjustified in Iraq because there might have been the intelligence was wrong. Saddam Hussein obviously did not have weapons of mass destruction, but the report also uncovered secret like memos and letters that Tony Blair, leader of Britain, assured President Bush of the U.S. that whatever you do, I'm with you. And then it showed some of the pictures of Bush and Blair. And George Bush, strutting across the stage, high and mighty. I never disliked the man, but I saw him strutting across the stage, all of his limbs intact. And then I heard on this radio 2 days ago, right after the Mass, a couple of days ago on the Sunday Mass, they were interviewing a vet, an Iraq vet named Travis. I wrote the name down. He's a quadruple amputee from Iraq. No arms and no legs. He was on the Catholic station saying how he's now got a ministry and he's doing his best because he served his country. And he wondered how his daughter would receive him, being he looked like a stump. And he said sometimes kids would be afraid to see a father with no arms and legs. He was one of the quadruple, all 4 limbs gone. And he said, but his daughter accepted him, 6-year-old, whatever she was, because a lot of her little toys are like figures that are like stumps and all. And to hear him, he was not bitter. And then to watch Bush strut. And then for the British government to finally say there was no reason for that war, because it wasn't the last resort. Even if he had the weapons, quote, of mass destruction, you don't go in and start a war, which today, what's happening in the world today, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Syria, in ISIS, it all started because of that. All of it. You say, John, but we had Al-Qaeda. Correct. And then ISIS grew out of what we did. So, Mr. Blair, Tony Blair, was defending his actions. He said, I would do it again. And I saw the parents, I watched, it was British News out on Sky News. Sky News is a good world news, not just our little world we live in when you watch U.S. media. So world news is better. And I saw the parents of the dead soldiers saying, my son died in vain. That was the father of a dead soldier who died in Iraq. British man. He said, my son died in vain because this whole debacle. But they have the power to say, well, we're going to do this. Now, I don't know. What you should do instead of having officers, after they continually commit felonies, in the case of many, instead of the police department being fully aware of those things and saying, oh, they did it again, they did it again, they did it. In the case of this guy killed yesterday, if they pulled the gun out to make it look like the guy had it, that's it. You can't, if they took it out of his pocket. Look, if we catch you destroying your dash cams, that's it. Many of these guys that have done that, in the Chicago case, destroyed dash cams, destruction of vehicles, or covering of evidence, they're all on the job. They just keep rolling. They just keep rolling. You say, wait a minute. We had a death here, and then we got other cell phone showing that, whether this case or not, there's others that have been done. And all those guys are rolling strong. Back on the job in the morning. To fight crime? No. We're going to get those bastards who videotaped us. We're going to do their jobs in many of those cases is absolute criminality. They're doing this in New York City. That's where there's some cases in New York where even people with a camera, they went after those kids' families. That's why I have no respect for those guys. You're not fighting crime. You put that 16-year-old black kid in Rikers Island for a year and a half. He finally committed suicide. And why was he in Rikers Island? Because the New York City cops accused him of stealing a backpack from a student in his class. He said he never stole it. He said, I didn't take the backpack. You're sitting in jail for a year and a half. And he got beat up in jail. That was on video. Then he got out, tried to get his life together, and killed himself. Don't you call yourself law? You got that famous case now. It's still on Dateline. It's still on. That guy's in Rosario. 20-something years in prison. And all the other witnesses, even other officers from Florida, testified, no, he was with us in Florida. Other cops from Florida are saying, Mr. Rosario was with us in Florida. And all the evidence and every testimony, eyewitness, says that man was in Florida. He was not in New York City. And that you still got that guy in prison 20-something years. And you all know that he's definitely innocent. But your lives just keep rolling. Your lives just keep rolling. It's got nothing to do with enforcement, justice, the prosecutors, DAs. Finally, a black lady judge that finally got in New York is doing something on the case. These guys keep rolling. These guys keep rolling. Let's destroy the dash cam. Let's cover evidence. Let's commit felony. You will not stop them. So my advice would be, when you have a rookie school, you'd let them know. One of the things about this job is you cannot commit felonies, guys, because you're officers. One of these things is you can't plant Xanax on Iraqi war vets. You cannot pursue citizens of the city nonstop, commit crimes, assault and battery, beat the shit out of people, ongoing, women being murdered, and then you have the balls to say, we're doing our job. How could you even have the balls to say something like that when you know all of this shit is going on? And you laugh about it. You think it's a joke. Because you know about it. There that cop goes again. Beating down another guy, stuck his Xanax on him. Beat the shit out of this one. Followed this one all over. How do you have the time for that when women are being killed? And you say, oh, our domestic violence unit is closed for the weekend. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And so we saw it last night on the news. Where they got the gun out of his pocket. So let's do whatever we got to do. there'll be no repercussions unless somebody catches it on a cell phone video. Because if it ain't on video, every one of those cops at that scene will lie. Every one of them, they will pursue the people that have the video. They got the videos. They confiscate videos from the stores. Take that, destroy. They have an ongoing. You say, well, what's the difference that the Bluff Glass 12 years ago had an armed robbery break-in? They called the cops, nobody showed up, and the guy finally said, wow, nobody even comes in this city for breaking and entering, and no one even went, not even a report. Somebody out on Padre Island, I think they were a military family a few years ago, 1 hour, somebody was at the door breaking in, and they were on 911, saying, please send somebody. No one went. And the responding station would have been this one here, called Bravo Division. They were the ones that were supposed to respond. 1 hour. You say they were tied up. My friend, I was with one of the guys I'm helping once, and one of the other guys threatened to kill him. Came in. Well, we were going to go do a meeting in Bishop. I was there. And he called the cops. He said, Brother John, now it was over an hour. And the station was, look, it was the Bravo police station right here. And he called the cops right over here from like less than a mile away. And it was more than an hour. Then somebody came, and I know the officer who came. 2 of them came. I recognized their faces. Because when they showed up, it was over an hour. For attempted murder? He came in and said he was going to kill the guy. I know both of these guys. Then when they got there, because my friend was telling me, well, Brother John, we're going to go do a meeting in Bishop. He said, I don't want to make you wait this long, John. I said, well, you were threatened that he was going to kill you. You might but want to wait for the cops. Finally, they came. So don't tell me you got great response. Don't tell me you're doing your jobs at all. At all. You get this public duped. And then I sat there and listened to the whole thing. And the one senior officer, some fat ass, because he made a comment, he said, well, my body's not in good shape. He said this. But I use my mind. That's what he said. Thought it was strange he'd say something like that. That's what he said. I'm not in the best shape, but I use my mind to... Well, use your mind here. Because after my friend spoke to that officer, and that was right here, 4 years ago, the cop said, well, these things happen. And I finally said, no, I was here. He came in. He broke into this apartment when I was here. And he threatened him to kill him. Well, these things happen. So go ahead and have your next... what you have to do is stop committing crimes. And you have to start actually enforcing law. That's the most basic thing. You have to stop having officers committing actual felonies in the Corpus Christi Police Department, which the planting of Xanax on Jesse. And that's one out of the million cases, the assault and battery of Shannon Case. You knew it, that he targeted that friend of mine. He assaulted him and he targeted him because he was upset that there was no drugs on him when he stopped him at the shrines. You have felony crimes by Corpus Christi police officers. And I gave you the names. And I gave you that. And you laugh about that. You think it's a joke. That's why when I watch this killing of this guy, and that's why I know there is no, you have the Justice Department's investigating that one. You have cops trying to investigate themselves. That's criminals investigating themselves. It's criminals. Now, the Caller Times called the CCPD Chief Markle to try to find out information about the girl that's missing, possibly dead, and you don't release what the violent crime was. Now, maybe you're going to say later, because she was a victim of a violent crime, maybe you're going to say it had to do with the investigation because it's possible that you reported the boyfriend for doing something. Maybe you're going to say that. But because of all this other stuff, for me personally, talking to your internal affairs guy 4 years ago, who had the St. Michael, he had a St. Michael little prayer card right on his desk. I remember that. Because he said, oh, that's something, I got that thing. And he even asks, like, and what other things has this officer done? What other crimes has he done? Like you knew 20 years of it. How many others do you need for any cop in any city, anywhere, Mr. Holtzclaw, raping constantly, and we know, we're aware that we're dealing with it. You're not law enforcement. You are the furthest thing from law enforcement. G.I. Joe was the name of the cop up in the Midwest somewhere, and they were investigating him for stealing the money from some youth program. And what did G.I. Joe do? G.I. Joe, Officer Ginowitz, he hatched a scheme where he saw 2 blacks and 1 white, but there was a black in there. He saw them in an ATM machine. And on the way to go commit suicide, G.I. Joe, the cop, figured, oh, I'll give the description of these black people at the ATM, and then when I kill myself, I'll use their description. So after I kill myself, the cop, they'll go after this black guy. Why did he kill himself? Because he had a hit. He had a hit to murder a city councilwoman in his town who was investigating him. Now, the shocker should be the department in that town knew it. Because as the story unfolded, it came out in the media that this officer was shot. And it was a very big thing, and they did a huge manhunt. And he gave the description. But then as Fox News and then CNN, and finally the story broke. But they asked months later, did this officer kill himself? See, they knew, the reporters knew that there was evidence that this whole thing was a setup. That this cop not only had a hit out on a city councilwoman where he was going to have her murdered because she was investigating him, but on the way to kill himself. Oh, there's a couple of black guys at the ATM. Let me use their description. After all, what better way to end my life than to frame some black people on the way out? That's law enforcement. And then the cops in that city knew he did that. How did they know, John? Because after months, the media started releasing, did he shoot himself? And I blogged on this at the time. I said, it looks like this cop committed suicide. And then I watched, because he got at the scene, he was going to kill himself, but he had his vest. And he had to have his vest, he had to take it off and shoot his own vest at like a distance, then put the vest back on and then shoot himself. Very elaborate. This is the mind of a criminal. Who would ever be trained in such criminal behavior? On-duty officer with a big career. Because that's the fact in the case. So then, as they began investigating, I wondered too, because he got to the scene, and it was 30 minutes after he said he was at the scene, and it was at some, like, wilderness area. And he didn't report that he was at the scene initially. So then they realized he killed himself. But there was a retired cop from that same city who the media reported he called his own department and threatened his own department. He said, you better tell the truth or I'm going to come down there. And he made a threat. Why would a retired cop threaten his own department, calling them and saying, quit lying about it? Because they didn't want to look bad in the media. So they kept pushing the story. Now you had all that department knowing that those black people that Mr. G.I. Joe framed by getting their ID at an ATM, you have that whole department more willing, let's go after those black people that we know are innocent, because we know our own officer killed himself in an elaborate scheme, and our own officer had a targeted hit put out on a city councilwoman. But instead of that getting out, we'd prefer, let's keep going after this black kid that's innocent, but we got a case because they kept pushing it. And finally, a retired cop. Then the story broke. So what you saw in that was that whole department was aware that crimes were being committed. And instead of wanting to do the right thing, they had an elaborate scheme. I don't know of any gang, any of my friends involved in anything, mafia, anybody that has the capability, the resources, and the intent to be criminal in that nature. You see, you have cops in this city that when they target people, they don't have to themselves. They call the dispatch on me once. I said, go follow this guy. He's all the way on the other side of town. It's on Leopard Street, avoiding AA meetings on this side of town. I got out of the AA meeting on Leopard, cop right behind me. Now, forget about, you got women being murdered, forget about that. You don't have time for any of that. But you have time to pursue citizens, beat the shit out of Shannon Case, go back, threaten him the next day after your own department. Criminals who commit crimes. Those are crimes. Those are crimes that you committed. Do you understand that? It was called assault and battery. That's what that was. With your full acknowledgement of a citizen by an officer at the Corpus Christi Police Department. The planting of Xanax on Jesse, who did 2 years, who he told the officers admitted it in front of witnesses. I believe Angel heard him say it. It's ongoing. You say, but John, if the cops know that their own people are doing it, surely they won't continue to cover it up. G.I. Joe. It's a culture of criminality, and it is not one of law enforcement. And that's what the public does not seem to understand. So we had another shooting yesterday, and it seems as if they got to get that gun out of the dead man's pocket while his beautiful wife and 15-year-old boy is crying, saying, I lost my daddy. I lost my daddy. And that now they're up against a criminal unit called police department in that city who will do everything to lie, to disgrace the blood of the man who's dead. You say, but John, maybe they were justified. And maybe, then don't cover anything up. Don't destroy your dash cams. This is a criminality that these guys are not learning. So, hopefully we'll find the missing girl. Hopefully in our city. Hopefully there will be some way, somehow, that police officers could just stop committing crimes. Stop Mr. Holsclaw raping women constantly with the full acknowledgement of your department, because when Mr. Holsclaw raped the 50-year-old black Sunday school teacher, she said to one of the officers who came to investigate, you'll never believe this, one of your cops is out raping women. Oh yeah, we know about it, huh? We were hoping he'd slow down on the felony rapes. You'd never believe one of your officers is murdering people. Oh yeah, we know. We had a talk with him. Can't stop killing innocent people, but we're hoping, what other job would you have people doing that? Oakland, California. Well, the chief, this one, that one, you all were passing around a minor, having sex with the minor. All of it, the girl obviously had a past. And they were all passing around. Where else? Any other place, career, you go to jail for those crimes. What other career could you have that you're drunk and you leave in a bar and you murder people in cold blood And then when your case went to the grand jury, your own internal union lied and said you were not drunk. And then it came out you were an officer off-duty drunk and you murdered people. But in the grand jury, you lied and said, no, he was not. And then later when it came out, how could you lie about that? You're a cop, you were drunk, you murdered people. Well, we have a contract negotiation that whatever's revealed in the union investigation of one of our officers, even if it's a felony, we act as defense. So the department actually does not process the evidence in a crime if it's committed by an officer. Because in that case, the grand jury, this was in Texas, did not know that that guy was drunk and shot those victims and killed them in cold blood. So that's why. Nobody else has that type of a benefit. So, it's up early. We'll do this. I'll just add this along, okay? We're going to have another video later. I was upset to hear that Iraq vet, no limbs, and then to know that that war was unjustified and where we're at today. And Tony Blair defending himself yesterday, saying we did what was right and I would do it again. Go, Tony Blair, leave Britain and go with the, stay in the European Union and leave the Britons alone. They broke away. You can go join the EU by yourself. Britain's out and they don't want you either because you did like what Bush did. Okay? All right. It's early, but I figured I'd do that. I want to discuss that. God bless everybody.